Hello. Now, I love this summit because we get to focus on our wellness and our well being. And it's kind of fascinating to me that in an age where we're super, super connected, we feel more isolated and disconnected than ever. And this is why I'm so glad we get to talk about this. We talk about how we can highlight tools, mindsets, and support systems to help us thrive and really just push our potential. So, I want to start with a question to all of you. What simple actions can any young person do to build lasting resilience and really protect their well being? Amna?
First of all, thank you so much for having me today. I'm very honored. The best way young people can build resilience is to take action and move. I am a big believer of being somebody who moves. So moving, how you move in the gym, when you lift, when you do endurance, when you do stability, that reflects back into your life. What you do in the gym in your body reflects back into the world.
It helps being a weightlifter, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
That's a secret code. Okay, Ilanka.
I think mindfulness and breathing exercises have personally helped me a lot. Taking some time away from social media, from people, and just being with yourself, which is sometimes very uncomfortable for some people, is super important in building that resilience and that self confidence and how you show up in the world.
What about yourself, Najah?
To be honest, with Dubai being such a busy place, I would say treating rest like a skill. Because rest is actually not the opposite of productivity, it is a part of productivity. And if anything, rest is what allows us to consolidate what we learn and even the resilience that forms through stressful experiences. So, what I mean by that is when we're really stressed out, that's not when we learn that we're resilient, it's on our way back when we're like, I handled that really well. And that only happens in the process of rest and recovery.
I'm glad you put it that way because it is recovery. It is a task. It's just a different type of task where you really just prioritize your own health. Now, Ilanka, you are a very, very talented person. You focus on a very creative area. I want you to tell me, like, how do boundary settings and how do, like, just really protecting that creative spark really affect your mental health?
So I think something I've learned as a creative and business owner through many experiences was that the only thing I can control is what's within my control. So letting outside factors not affect my emotional well-being as much, which is easier said than done, but stressing out about things that are out of my control will not help me find the solution faster or will not help me get to my end goal faster. So I think that's super important, realizing that outside forces should not be the key to your emotional well-being. So having your own compass and knowing how to go back to that and finding yourself again is super important in the whole creative journey.
I'm glad that you talk about it in a personalized way. It's a process, it's your process. It's something that can help others, but it might not be a one size fit all. And nowadays we see something that's generalized and it's hustle culture. Everybody's like, we need to do more, we need to be more productive. And I want to know, like, as the first Emirati awarded the Rosalind Carter Fellowship for Mental Health Journalism, and you're someone who's competed and represented the nation, how do you sort of combat that ideology? How do you focus on building resilience and emotional literacy?
To build emotional literacy and resilience, first of all, you need to understand that you don't reach that by working harder, you reach that by understanding yourself better. Once you understand your emotions, your what causes you stress, how you recover, how much you need to recover, plays a huge role in your resilience. In the end of the day, it's more about you and how you interact with the world. And as an Olympic weightlifter who qualified for the Olympics in 2016, one of the things that was part of the program is recovery and rest. We don't take that as luxury, it's strategic. And that makes a huge difference. Once you adopt that kind of mindset and understanding that rest is part of the program, you start to see that you are actually behaving from a place of, conscious steps, intentional action. You are not acting from a place of reactive survival. And by doing that, you start to lead better, feel better, act better, and that reflects back from going from a hustle culture into a high performance culture.
That is absolutely true. And what I like about it is that you're saying that, it's not just the case of I'm reacting to the things around me, I'm taking control of it and I'm gonna control my reaction. this brings me to another issue that we always talk about when we talk about mental health. Like, I don't exist in isolation. There are families, there are societies, there are educators. Um, what do you think is one of the things that people need to understand about different mental health needs for anyone under the age of 35?
So, I am a psychotherapist by trade, so I'm going to bring a neurobiological framing and lens to this perspective. Within youth, we're looking at three different developmental stages. We are looking at our adolescence, then we're looking at emerging adulthood. This is 18 to 25, some theories say 29. And then we're looking at that young professional adulthood, and that is more the 29 to 35. With adolescence, we are looking at a very premature prefrontal cortex. And this part of the brain is supposed to help us with planning, executive functioning, reasoning, reflection, emotional regulation. And then we've got our limbic system. And our limbic system is in charge of emotional sensitivity, cues to stress, reward systems. And that is fully formed by this age. And that means you've got a naturally imbalanced brain that is quite emotionally intense, but cannot conceptualize or reflect or regulate the emotions required to actually build the resilience needed without support. So at this age, it is so required to have emotional and relational anchoring, whether that is through educators, family systems, communities. That is incredibly important. And then you go to emerging adulthood, and they sound more like adults and they look more like adults, but their prefrontal cortex still not completely developed. So you're looking at people who are acting like adults, feeling like, hey, they got to take on those responsibilities like adults, but they're still in that identity formation phase. They're still learning to regulate their emotions, and they require a lot of structural support in the workplaces and university while they build their identity. And then when you move into the adulthood, the young professional, remember that you cannot actually skip those developmental requirements. So if you've not had the scaffolding required during adolescence and emerging adulthood, you're going to struggle with those things while you come to the workspace. You are going to be more reactive. You're not going to feel as resilient. So those things are going to impact you even when you are 30, 32. And I think the biggest takeaway with this is that it's not about cognitive capacity. It's not about intellectual capacity. Your emotional capacity is how we measure grit and resilience. So we really can't discount the importance of your emotional capacity and the skills required to build that.
I think definitely when we talk about grit, it's something that brings me to a very important quote that I kind of live by. It's like, talent is no measure of success. Persistence is. Keeping at it, it accumulates, and it really does become something completely magical. But I don't want to stray away from the theme of, communities. I want to know from you as well, how do you think that communities and schools and workplaces even can create supportive environments and ecosystems for young people?
That's a great question. The best way to create supportive environment in communities and schools and workplaces starts with language. Language is the first line of defense. How we speak about mental health plays a huge role in how it is being viewed and how to reduce the stigma. To give you a couple of examples, you have to first focus on person first approach, meaning instead of saying the person is depressed, or you say they are living with depression. So you separate the person from the illness or the condition. Another example, a lot of times we say, I am overwhelmed. You are not overwhelmed. You feel overwhelmed. So separating the emotion from the identity makes a huge difference in reducing the shame, the stigma, and those kind of things are very small, but they play a huge impact on the person in the community. Because what happens is when you are not taking care of those words, you are putting, the person in a box that they are needing to be fixed or they cannot be fixed, instead of actually giving them the power and the right way of speaking and the subconscious training as well and mind that shows that no, they are able to heal, grow, and change. So using the right terminologies plays a huge role in different systems, and we can start by incorporating that bit by bit.
Ilinca, I'd love to hear your take.
To add to that, actually, I think in our adolescence and as children in schools, we learn a lot. We learn a lot of information about everything except ourselves. So we don't learn about how to deal with our own emotions, what to do in certain situations when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're uncomfortable. And that's kind of left all up in the air. So I think learning about emotional intelligence and how to deal with one another outside of be nice, be kind, treat people how you want to be treated outside of that is super important because you're dealing with so much underneath your studies, your work, your goals and your dreams that nobody really talks about. So I think even sometimes maybe just calling a friend, having good friends is super important in the whole journey as a human. I don't think we're meant to deal with this alone, and most people sadly do deal with it alone.
Najah.
I'm going to bring in a little bit of a systemic approach. I think that there's so many incredible, well-intentioned movements, organizations, institutions, projects happening in mental well-being, but I feel sometimes we're working within our own silos, and there isn't a coordinated approach when it comes to mental health. And in the MENA region specifically, I will say there's a lot of competition. And this could look like schools and mental health providers not communicating. This could look like parents not receiving the psychoeducation required to support their children. This could look like in a workplace having a well-being workshop, but then that not being integrated within their key performance indicators. So there is a lot of work being done, but within their own silos. So I think coordinated care is so important. And I think, like Amna said as well, emotional literacy and being able to know how to communicate, that's such a big part of how we build that coordinated care as well. Finding shared language, finding shared responsibility, and being able to actually work within a community to build those systems, incredibly important.
I agree, and I think we've had some amazing takeaways. So if today you're feeling overwhelmed, take a beat, recover. It can be very overstimulating to be in such settings. It's a yeah, it's just a feeling. It will pass. If your limbic system is running away and is just running the show, take a moment and definitely let's destigmatize getting help. If you need help, it is perfectly okay. I want to thank you so much for my amazing panelists for all the insights. It's been a pleasure. Thank you
Thank
to the
you for
amazing
having us.
audience.
Thank you all. Thank you.